Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Inshallah, in today's dars regarding Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu and his life, we were talking about last couple of weeks about the conquest of Iraq and the areas east of it. And we started off talking about the Battle of Qadisiyah. We talked about how Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, he prepared the army under the leadership of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, and how his knowledge regarding the Iraq was quite accurate and not too far away from the knowledge that Al-Muthanna bin al-Harith radiallahu anhu, one of the Sahaba who were leaders in opening or the conquest of Iraq. And the advice that Al-Muthanna radiallahu anhu gave to Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was very pretty much the same as what Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu gave. There was important thing to understand that even though until that time Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he had not even stepped foot into Iraq yet. But the way he was giving the guidance was as if he was there. And as if he's in the war room or something, and online he's seeing what's happening there, and he's giving the advice to the Sahaba over there. So that's the important thing. Obviously, we did talk about the battlefield and all those things, but in general, we are not going into too much details of the battlefield because we are discussing the life of Umar al-Khattab here. If we go too much into the battlefield discussions and the details of that, it will become more of what the Sahaba did in those battlefields. And since we are trying to cover the life of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, we will talk about that, but we will not go into too much detail. That's my point, even though we are going to quite a bit of deep detail, but try to just see the role of Umar al-Khattab in grooming those Sahaba to be productive, to be the one who are the warriors who are doing the job that they were assigned for to do the job. To the point that when Muthanna radiallahu anhu, when he was on his deathbed, when his wounds, as we talked about last week, opened up that he received during the battle of Bridges or the Ma'arakat al-Jisr, when they opened up and he realized that was his time to go from this dunya, besides he gave the advice about the battleship and how to fight against Iraq, because it was a treasure of knowledge he had about Iraq. Even to the point that one of the wasiyah that he gave, or the nasihat he gave to his wife, was to marry Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu after he passes away. And after the iddah passed away, she married Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu. And as Mu'arrikhin, the historians, discuss this, that why Al-Muthanna bin al-Harith is telling his wife to marry Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, because he knew that Sa'd was the next leader in the Iraq to lead the Muslims. And Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was from one of the 10 Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim to whom Rasulullah gave the glad tidings of the Jannah. So he is a great Sahabi from that perspective, one of the earlier Muslims who entered into folds of Islam. And second thing that is discussed is because she was a wife of Al-Muthanna radiallahu anhu, hence she was very close to him. And she was aware of many of the things that she learned from Al-Muthanna. So she can be very helpful to Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, because now if she marries him, she becomes a mahram to him. So she can provide the knowledge as well. So Sahaba, even on the deathbed, he was so focused, if you look at Al-Muthanna's life, that his eyes are on Iraq, that how the Muslims are going to take the message of Islam to the people of Persia. And when we are talking about conquest, see, in Islam, these conquests are not we are after the resources of the people. The main idea is to take this message of Islam to the people, as we also talked about last week. I'm just trying to wrap it up so we have a context that when the delegation that was appointed, 7 by Umar al-Khattab, 7 by Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, went to Yazdgard or Yazdjard, whichever way you want to look at the name. And the way the discussion was happening, and Yazdgard was looking down at them, telling them, these Arabs, they were nobody. We'll clothe you, we will give you money, go away. We will even appoint you a leader on top of you. And he's telling you, no, none of the Arabs ever risen up like this, the way you are coming to us. What happened to you guys? And the answer was no different than what the similar answer we will see today, Rabi' bin Amir radiallahu anh gave to Rustam as well, the leader of the army of the Persians. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the meaning wise was this, that He has sent us to take you out of the worshipping the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal and take you to worship Allah Azza wa Jal, the creator of all the creation. To take you out of the narrowness of the dunya and show you the vastness of this dunya and the akhirah. And to take you out of the dhulm or the jawr of the adyan, jawrul adyan, to show you Islam. So that's the main purpose of, in general, when the Muslims were going to these regions, was to carry Islam, the message from Allah Azza wa Jal. Remember that, because the moment we disconnect this idea and try to connect it to today's reality, how the world works, then you start thinking of, oh, they were after the resources like the people are today. And this is what you see all the time. Like you may have read the report about, there was, the gold was found recently in Uganda. It was Uganda, right? Yeah. It was the huge amount, hundreds of billions of dollars, or probably a trillion. I forgot the exact number what it was. And the joke was like this now, well, we have to go and free Ugandan people. The women are oppressed over there. And hence we have to send the armies. These people are oppressed. We have to take care of them. Suddenly people realize that we have to take care of these people. So this is not ever you find in the case of these battles what we're discussing. That was there to free the people from the slavery of the creation of Allah, whether the people or their own desires, and take them, free them, and make them the ibad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what Islam is about. And that's what these Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim and the following Muslimin, when they were going to these areas, that's the core reason behind it. So we talked about different talks that were given Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Now let's move on to Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas when he was going to be in front of the army of the Persia, which was led by Rustam. So today, inshallah, we'll talk about that as much as we can do today within the time limitations that we have. So Rustam's army, they got to the point which is called, there's a river, and as we talked about, there were two main rivers that are going through the Iraq, which is Dajla and Furat. But besides that, Iraq has a lot of rivers as well. So that's why very fertile land the Iraq has. Now, when we look at what happened there, the army of Rustam, before they reached Al-Qadisiyah, they stayed at the bridge which is called Al-Atiq. Now, this Al-Atiq is because it's on the river, is Al-Atiq. So the Persian, they had 33 elephants with them. And they camped with those 33 elephants, and each elephant was carrying a box. And within the box, there were soldiers inside as well. And now these armies, this army was coming with 33 elephants. And one of the report talks about that with each flank, which is with every elephant, they have about 4,000 soldiers along with them. So it's a huge army, and this is besides the rest of the the cavalry they had, and infantry they had. Horsemen were different. So Anyways, so he now he sent a messenger to Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, and he wanted to meet somebody from the side of Sa'd. So Sa'd sent Rabi' bin Amir radiallahu anhu, and who came to him, and he found him sitting on a throne of gold. This is what Rustam. See, now we have to understand when we're talking about the superpower like that, how big of a superpower they were, that the general is sitting on the throne of gold with carpets and cushions interwoven with gold threads. And if you look at, if you look at when we talk about the gold throne that he had, that shows the amount of wealth the Persians had at that time. And the carpet wise, they were famous for the carpets from back then as well, as today we talk about Persian carpets. So it's not something new we're discussing. So this hand-woven Persian carpets were famous at that time as well. So when he reached the carpet, he made his horse step over them intentionally. And this is, subhanAllah, this is something that you see about the delegates that was sent by Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas to Rustam, that the kind of attitude they had towards the army, and there was a reason behind it. It's not that they were trying to disrespect Rustam or disrespect the Persians only. This is more of to show that they don't care about these things, and to create a haiba in the hearts of the enemy, create some sort of fear in their hearts as well, to say. Now, Rabi', when he came, so he intentionally got on the carpet, and his sword was not really a sheath, a fancy sheath or something here. He with a sheath with the cloth, and he had a spear, and he started dragging him on the carpet. So he's damaging the carpet intentionally. Now, he took the saddlecloth and wrapped it around himself like a cloak. And they gestured to him that he should put down his weapon. And he said, if I would have come by my own will, I would have put it down. You invited me, hence I'm not going to put it down now. So it's a battlefield we're discussing. There are armies up against each other. So these tactics are important for that. So he said, I would do that. So he said, if I would have come my own will, I would have taken off. I'm not going to take off my weapons. I'm going to come with. So he came, and as I said, he was leaning his spear and taking small steps intentionally. Small steps, so the more damage happens to the carpet. Okay? And when he came near to Rustam, he sat on the ground and stuck his spear into the carpet and said, we do not sit on furniture that you are sitting, because he was sitting on a gold. And Rustam asking him, what brought you here? He said, Allah brought us here. He has sent us to bring whomsoever he wills from to worshipping the people to worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The famous statement actually goes like this. He said, Allahu ba'athna linukhrija man sha'a min ibadat al-ibad ila ibadat Allah. Wa min dhiq ad-dunya ila was'atiha. Wa min jawr al-adyan ila adl al-Islam. Subhanallah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who sent us. For what? To take the people out of worshipping the creation of Allah or the slaves of Allah to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To take people out of dhiq dunya is like a narrowness. People have a very narrow frame of mind, the way they think. This dunya is everything, and which within the dunya, thereafter, whatever they can gain out of it. Rather than that, Islam came to take people out of this narrowness and start looking at dunya from the vastness of dunya, and also the akhirah that you have in front of you. And Jawrul Adyan, the oppression of all the ways of lives, to the Adl al-Islam, the justice that provided by Islam, meaning the one that Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who sent. And then he better mention about the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the one who was sent among us, and he is the one who followed him. They were successful. Basically, he's trying to mention the message that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought. And he says that he sent to us his messenger, bringing his religion to his creation. Whoever accepts it, he will accept that. and leave him and his land alone. But whoever refuses, we will fight him until we end up either in paradise or in victory. So these wordings have they had huge impact on Rustam as well as the army of Rustam. Rustam said, "We have heard what you said. Can you give us some time to think about it now?" Look, right away he's saying, "Give us some time." He said, "Yes. One of the things that Messenger ﷺ taught us is not to give the enemies more than 3 days. So we give 3 days. So we will leave you alone for 3 days. Think about it and choose one of the three options. Either become Muslim and we will leave you and your land alone, or pay the jizya and we will accept it and leave you alone. And if you need us, we will come to your help or fight on the fourth day. Unless you started before then, I guarantee that you, or guarantee to you on behalf of my companions, that we will fight." And Rustam asked, "Are you their leader?" He said, "No, but the Muslims are like single body, part of one another, and the highest of them accepts a commitment made by the lowest of them. So it doesn't really matter. He's been sent by the leadership of the Muslims, even though he might be the lowest among them, but if he makes a commitment with them, everybody will follow. So that's not the issue." And now, so he went away. After a day, Rustam asked for another day. He asked for Rubai bin Amr to come back again. And now, Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, instead of Rubai, he sent Hudayfa bin Mahsin al-Ghalfani. Now, he was confused. Why did he send him now? He asked for Rubai. Why Sa'ad is sending somebody else? So he said that our commander treats us equally in the hardships and the ease. It was a day for Rubai yesterday. Today is day for me to be there. It's a hardship for whatever burden has been made on somebody else. Now today somebody else will call it. It doesn't matter. We are all same. And the discussion he had with him was no different than what he had with Rubai bin Amr. There's a very important point, inshallah, after the third one I will talk about. It's very important to understand. He is talking in the same tone and same message he's giving as Rubai bin Amr gave. Third day, he asked for somebody else. This time, Sa'ad ibn Waqqas sent somebody else now, not even the first group. Now he sent the third one. Al-Mughira bin Shu'ba radiallahu anhu was sent here now. The discussion with him happened, and same answers he was getting. Now, he said, one of the things he said, "We Arabs do not enslave one another." He said, "We used to hear a great deal about your wisdom, but I have never seen any people more foolish than you. We Arabs do not enslave one another. We thought that you treated one another equally as we do." He's talking about the Persians, because when he saw them, he saw there's a difference. Rustam is sitting on the gold throne. Others are regular people, are completely different than the general. And there's a variation in there. And they're treating each other in a different manner. So he said, and we Arabs do not enslave one another. We thought that you treated one another equally as we do. I wish that you had told me that some of you act like the masters of others. You cannot continue like this, for a kingdom based on such an attitude cannot last. Now, among the common people, ordinary people that Rustam had, he says, the Arab is speaking the truth by Allah. So he realized what he's saying is the truth. This equality that Islam was giving to the people, it really matters. And those people were suffering. So he said, he's saying the truth by Allah. And the chief among them, one of the leaders among the ordinary people, he said, this is the kind of idea that our slaves are longing to hear. May Allah curse our predecessors, for they kept making little of this nation. Then Rustam spoke in a belittling manner of the Arabs. So he started trying to degrade the Arabs. And he started exaggerating what the Persians were. Now, Al-Mughira bin Shu'ba, radiallahu anhu, he accepted. See, subhanAllah, he did not try to hide anything. He said, as far as what you have said about our miserable situation and division, we admit that, and do not deny it, but things in this world do not last forever. And after hardships comes ease. If you did not thank for what Allah has given you, your gratitude was too little in comparison what you were given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your lack of gratitude led to the decline in your situation. Allah sent among us messenger, then he said something similar to what the others had said, and he concluded by giving, meaning talking about the rest of the other two said, and he said the similar things and told them about the jizya and fighting. And he mentioned, because he came for the third day, so now this is the time to make the decision. So now Rustam consulted. Rustam, when he saw that, he said, "Who are these who are they in comparison to you? The first two came and boldly figured you out. They figured you out who you people are. And then one come with the same approach. They have all followed the same method, acted in the same way. So you see, this is important. Why they are all acting the same way? By Allah, these are real men. This is what Rustam is talking about the Muslims now. He's the head of the army, general of the army. He said, these are the real men. Whether they are sincere or liars, by Allah, if they are disciplined, and their way of keeping secrets has reached such a level that they all have the same approach, never differing. There are no people who are able to achieve that. They won't like them. If they are sincere, no one will be able to stand up to them. See, this is Rustam. He's talking about the Muslims like this. He starts praising them. Now the people around Rustam, they start arguing with each other because they see their leadership is leaning towards in the favor of the Muslims. Because what we saw just by 3 people, he has not even come across the army. He has a huge army with the weaponry and number-wise, they outnumbered Muslims in every sense. But when he met them, he realized who he was after. But the people around him, they did not listen to what Rustam was saying. And hence, now they move forward. And the Persians crossed the river at Al-Atiq, and Rustam drew up his huge army in the following order. He took Dhul Hajib with 18 elephants, carrying boxes and men. To the right of the core, Jalinus we talked about in the previous, these are the ones who participated in the previous battles also. Hormuzan was on the right flank, and the left was by Birazan. And on the left flank, Mahran with 7 or 8 elephants carrying the boxes. So this is how he did that. Now, on the other side, now the Muslims had, and I'm not going to go into all the details of the whole flanks, but that the way the army was set up, it was actually dictated by Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. So it is important to understand, even though Umar is not in Iraq, but he is in touch with Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu continuously, and he is going back and forth, and he is giving instructions even about how the army will be led by which people. So Zuhra ibn al-Haywa, Abdullah ibn Mu'tam, and Asim bin Amr, Sawad bin Malik, Salman bin Rabi', Hammal ibn Malik, and on and on. All these people were given the leadership of different flanks, and they move forward. Now, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas addressed the people, and this is important for us to know. SubhanAllah, the way he is motivating and bringing up the morals of the army over there. He reminded them by the book of Allah Azza wa Jal. As in Surah Al-Anbiya, Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُوهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. What means by that is, Allah has written even in the Zabur also, and after what he revealed in the dhikr, that this earth is inherited by the Salihun. It will be run by the Salihun. So it is important for, even though you are in the state of war, to remember that the victory comes from Allah Azza wa Jal, and it will come if you are among the Salihun. And he ordered the readers to start reciting Surah Al-Anfal. That has a lot of things about the battlefield. The ahkam they should know about. And people were deeply moved, and sense of tranquility descended upon them when they're reciting the Quran. Look, this is an important key aspect of it. And there's an Urdu talk I give on Tuesdays about the tafsir of the Quran. I want to remind the brothers and the sisters who are listening that the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to be looked at from the perspective of there is a message for all of us in there. There is a message for us. It's not a book for chanting only. These Sahaba in the battlefield, they're remembering Surah Al-Anfal. It's not that they're just reciting words have no meaning. No, those words were moving them. Those words were moving them because they have the ahkam regarding what they're involved in. Hence, when we read the Quran, we should know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us when we're reciting those things, those ayat. It's not just reading the ayat and we have no clue what we have read, whether what we have read is something good for us or bad for us if we're not following the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. So this is important. Okay, and then he mentioned to Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas said that when you are advancing your army, and he talked about there are three takbirat, and after the fourth takbir, you will get into the fight, which is the general fight. Remember that there's fights happen sometime in the beginning, the individuals move forward, they fight with each other, and after that, the general battle starts, or the war starts. He said after fourth takbir, you get involved. You don't get involved into general battle until you hear from Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. Now the problem was, Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu, he fell ill before the battle started. He had, which is called a sciatica, which is caused the back pain, and he was not able to move much. So he was not able to sit, he was not able to ride. So he lay on his chest on a pillow, and they made him and the way they raised him up in a way so he can see the battlefield. So there is so he was looking over the battlefield from the fort of Qudais, which was in Al-Qadisiyah. So but he delegated Khalid ibn Urtufa as his naib. Naib means his assistant or the muawin, whichever way you want to look at it. Naib in general means second in command. So he's the one who's representing Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu. He's taking the orders from Sa'ad, and everybody has to follow now Khalid. So now when the Khalid was given, the dispute came up about Khalid now. Some of them did not like Khalid to be the one who has this position. And the Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas said, carry me and put me where I can see the people. So they lifted him up, and he laid looking over them with the ranks of the bottom of the wall of the fort of the Qudais. Then he gave instructions to Khalid, and Khalid gave instructions to the people. And some of them, they revolted against Khalid bin Urtufa. Now, Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu said, first of all, he detained the ones like Abu Mihjan al-Thaqafi. He detained him and chained him in the fort. And he said, and there was another one also, and he said, if anyone, he said, by Allah, if anyone causes similar trouble after this, distracting the Muslims from the enemy, when they are in front of them, I will set a precedent in punishing them. Because this is not the time to play games like this. So he made sure that does not take away the mindset of the Muslims while they are fighting the enemy and they have some problem within themselves. Because following the orders is a must in Islam. Because when it comes to whoever has been given the leadership, it is a must for us to follow. And as a Muslim, this is pretty much ingrained in us. On a daily basis, we remember this. We come to the salah, somebody's leading the salah, and we follow even every movement. We understand there's a imara, there's a leadership for different action. Salah is a different kind of action. In that, there's a leadership. When you're traveling, you appoint a leader. When you're running a country, you have a leader. So you have to follow the leader is a must for us, of course, as we have discussed in the past as well. Even if you have the Khalifa, following the leadership is an obligation, but if he is asking you to do haram in disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no obedience in that case. Obedience is only where there's obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there as well. Okay? So in this case, of course, obedience was a must. Then after this incident, Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas stood up and addressed them. And after praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he mentioned again, وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزُّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Zabur and later on in the dhikr that the earth belongs to the Salihun. And he says, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he replied to that of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to go against the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the one who has mentioned that He will give. So they were looking at this ayah as a glad tidings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That when they move forward, the salihun will get the authority. So He said, this is your inheritance which your Lord has promised you. Allah put His land under your control 3 years ago, and you have been eating of His food until today as a result of the efforts of those who fought before. As we talked about the Persia, it was open in the time of Umar, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, and later on they made the movement in the time of Umar. And then when they gathered around Yazjad and there was some retaliation happened, the one who were the Ahl Dhimma, the people who were Dhimmis, and the people who, some of them apostated also, and they fought against, and Muthanna had to move the Muslims out of the area between two rivers. Now they were moving forward again, but He's reminding them, Allah gave you the risk from that land. So He said, if you show disinterest in worldly gains and hope for the hereafter, Allah will bless you with reward in this world and in the hereafter. See, it's not the issue of dunya is also created for us to get benefit from. But dunya should not be our focus. When the akhirah is the focus, Allah will give us the dunya and the akhirah. But if we make dunya as our focus only, then we will become the losers. That's the idea you will find was continuously repeated over and over. Okay? Okay. Then Saad wrote to those who were carrying the banner, I have appointed Khalid bin Orfata in charge of you. Nothing is preventing me from being in his place, but the pain which keeps bothering me and the abscesses I have. I am lying on my front where I can see you. So listen to him and obey him. So he's mentioning Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was quite sick, and he is not even able to even lie on his back. So he was lying on his chest because he has abscess was developed also, and he has sciatica. So he's saying that you must follow him even though I want to be there. And he said, this letter, he said, I can see you from, and I can listen to you, but obey him. And now this letter was read to the people, all of them. And Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anh continued to get the news about that. Now, because of lack of time, I will not go into the 4 days of the battle that started, because the battle was it was spun over about 4 days. Inshallah, what we'll do is we will stop this discussion today's talk with the Qadisiyah here, and we'll continue next week. And we will talk about all those 4 battlefield days next week, inshallah, and finish it. But if there is any questions or comments about how Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was dealing with the situation of the Qadisiyah so far, and how Umar ibn Khattab was engaged in all the things which are happening in the battlefield. He was not disconnected. Remember, this is a very important aspect of these battlefields when we're talking about, because otherwise you don't see Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh is the one who's fighting directly. But his presence was there in a different way. He was the one who was guiding Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas and the leadership that was sent to Iraq, and he was guiding them to how to deal with the people of the Iraq over there. Even when he sent the delegation, 7 people he chose himself. Remember, we talked about last week, to the point, yes, he talked about the people, he chose the people who knew the Persian, for example, the one who were in the battlefields of Iraq also, the one who were going to meet Yazjad also. And even he picked the people who were handsome. Now, it's a very strange thing when we talked about last week as well. What does the handsomeness have to do with going and meeting those people? The reason is that when you're meeting the people who do not carry the basis as you have, which is our right and wrong comes from Allah Azza wa Jal. Halal and haram comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the people who do not carry this basis, they give their ears to the superficialities. And Omar was even making sure that even if that superficiality can open their minds to listen to them, so he's sending the people like them. It's not that they were better than the one who are, subhanAllah, from a dunya perspective. Some people think about this person is good looking, other is not good looking, whatever the way a person looks at it. And you see that all these things about what is considered as good looking and bad looking is completely relative from people to people. But that's a tactic of war we are discussing here. We're not talking about here saying the people who happen to be more handsome than the other are better than the others. As we have discussed in the past, there was a very handsome guy that Umar ibn Khattab kicked him out of Medina because he was causing trouble because of being handsome. So here, there was a different kind of a need that was there. So Umar was dealing with that. But anyways, point is, we will talk about the Qadisiyah's battle a little bit, inshallah, and go to the rest of the Iraq part and next week. But if there's any questions about how the things were dealt by Umar ibn Khattab or Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas so far, I will try to answer them, inshallah. If there's any comment, please go ahead.